and just to give ourselves grace because parenting is tough, y'all.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We want to do things a little bit different this time. Our normal format is about 30 minutes to 1 hour, and these segments are going to be just a little bit shorter. And this is just a way for you all to get to know us better.
So these shorter segments are just us speaking from the heart and just things going on in our life right now.
So, welcome to Life Right Now, and this topic is about parenting. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, guys, so I'll start us off because I'm pretty excited about this topic. So 2 years ago, my mom actually bought me a parenting course. You guys, this is a real thing. There's little modules that you can complete. There's corresponding tasks that you can print out. It is a full-on course. And I did it a little bit when the boys were younger, but now that they're at an age that they can actually understand consequences versus punishments and stuff like that, this is the perfect time to do it. So, my husband and I started doing this parenting program called the Parenting with Purpose Method. It is so life changing for our boys. I know there's not like a one size fits all parenting method. You hear stuff like people do like gentle parenting, and then people do sleep training, and then there's so many different ways to parent your kids. But this course that we have been doing has been so amazing. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that I've been learning in it that have really been helpful for my boys. So, the first thing that was just life changing for me to learn about this program was the difference between discipline and punishment. I don't know if
Hmm.
y'all off the top of your head know like the actual difference. Do y'all know? Or do y'all think they're similar?
I would say I have like a slight grasp of what it
Mhm.
means.
Yeah.
Okay. So this program is all about a responsive way of parenting versus a reactive way of parenting. So I'm sure y'all have heard
Mhm.
those terms before. So when you're a responsive parent, you're more of trying to discipline them and guide them in the right direction versus when you're a reactive parent, you're reacting with emotions and that can lead to punishment, which
Mm.
brings blame, shame, and pain, is what this program talks about. They kind of beat it in your head that when you're using punishment methods, you're bringing them blame, pain, and shame, which in turn never gets you the results you're looking for when you're trying to turn their behavior around or get them to learn future behavior. So, I was
Mhm.
going to read this definition real quick. Discipline invokes the thinking brain to learn new behavior, but punishment invokes the emotional brain to fear a consequence. So when I heard
Wow.
that definition, it just changed my life because I had been
Mhm.
using so many forms of punishment that truly never worked to give me the result I wanted. I'm like trying all these different punishment methods. I've tried everything under the sun when it comes to punishment. And it not only made me feel guilty for doing those methods, but they never worked to change future behavior. And that's the most
Mhm.
important part of parenting is you want them to learn what to do better next time. So to discipline actually means to teach, to train,
Mhm.
to correct, and to guide, to instruct. I don't know if I said that one, but the definition of punishment is actually to inflict pain or suffering for past behavior. It's just so sad to think about
Mhm.
causing our children pain. And I get it that there's methods that some parents will be like, well, this works for my kid. And truly, there's no judgment for me. Whatever you decide to do with your kid, for my boys, this was not working. It just was not changing their behavior. So there's this one quote that I want to read to y'all that really changed the way I thought about being a reactive parent versus a responsive parent, because that's what I strive to be now, is more of a responsive parent. When you react to your kids, you're like a thermometer. You reflect the temperature of your environment or you match it. So when you're
Mhm.
reacting to them with emotions and anger, you're literally matching their emotions and anger. Versus when you respond to them, you're like a thermostat. You set the temperature, you dictate the
Wow.
temperature and initiate action to change the temperature in your environment. So that was so life changing to me whenever
Yeah.
I learned about this form of parenting. And I don't really like the term like gentle parenting because it really has a bad stigma, but I like to call this responsive parenting. And then all the punishment types fall under the category of reactive parenting because you're really just
Mm-hmm.
reacting with emotion. So, just whenever I go to respond to what my boys are doing that I don't like, I try to think, am I reacting to them out of anger or am I thinking through my response first to try to teach them what to do better next time?
Mm-hmm.
So, this program has been amazing, and my husband has been on the same page with me with it. And
That's amazing.
it really is. He comes home and he implements stuff. Like, one small example is this program teaches you to say, when you don't do this, then you don't get this.
Mm-hmm.
So, when then I will tell one of the boys, like, hey, when you clean the playroom, then you get to go outside. And it changes their mindset of me trying to boss them around
Mm-hmm.
to then they either make the decision to do the right thing or they don't. And if they don't, then it's their own fault that they didn't make that right
Yeah.
decision. Therefore, the consequences, then they don't get to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband will come home and he will start saying things like, boys, when you clean the playroom, then we get to go outside. So those are just a couple of small things that I've learned about this parenting course. But I would love to hear about y'all's parenting experiences recently.
I love how you talk about responsive parenting, Kelsey, because growing up, I would definitely say back when our parents were parenting us, I don't think that there was like any books or any help. And I don't even know if there was internet. There probably was, but oh well. And
Back in the Stone Ages.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is before electricity.
this is
Just
the
kidding.
early 90s, y'all.
Anyway, I can honestly say this, and I think I've told you guys in our group chat that we have over texting and on the phone and stuff. But y'all, I just look up to my dad so much. I cannot even begin to express what a wonderful father figure he was to my brother and I. And I've never seen him angry. I've never seen him raise his voice. I've never seen him lose his cool. And I mean that like
Wow.
honest truth. He was such an example. And whenever my brother and I would get in trouble, of course, I'm sure he was feeling all of these emotions, but he just didn't show it. And he would tell us to go to our room and think about what we did. And then he would come in and he would like talk to us and he would like make sure that we understood why we were in trouble. And that's something that I've tried to carry down in my own parenting style. I'm not perfect whatsoever, but we have a few household principles, and one of them is being purposeful. And, us as Christians, we know our purpose in life, and that's to love and honor our Creator and love our neighbor as we would love ourselves and to love Jesus. And this is something that I try my very best to be intentional with in parenting and showing my children, like, how to love others and how to put others before ourselves and to live out the love that we've been given. So, that is actually a quote that my pastor from my church uses a lot. Is like live out the love that we've been given. And I just try to shower my girls with all the love that I've been given from our creator, God, our Father. And praise Jesus because his grace makes it possible for us to do these things. And another principle that we have is forgiving and forgiveness, y'all. And this is important to instill in our children and also to instill in ourselves. And we should always be ready to show forgiveness to our children and grace and mercy whenever they come to us and they're sorry for what they've done, and to just shower them with forgiveness. And another principle is humble. As Christians, we know that there is only one perfect parent, and that is God our Father. And we're so limited being humans. And so, being a parent, we depend on God daily for forgiveness, strength, and guidance. And truly, we are such a work in progress. I can't tell you how many times I have just like flipped my lid and have just reacted, and I don't need to do that. And it's something that I have been convicted on so many times, and praise Jesus for his spirit transforming us and renewing us daily. And just to give ourselves grace because parenting is tough, y'all.
Yeah.
It is.
Something, this is just my last thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something that I grew up with is that I try to boost my children's self-esteem. So I speak life over them. I tell my girls every day. It's the three S's. I call it you are strong, you are smart, you are sweet. And like my youngest daughter, she has a speech delay and she'll go around all the time and she'll say her name and she's like, I am strong, I am smart, and I am sweet. And I just try to instill in my children these things because they are loved, they are valuable. And even when they mess up, I still want them to think of themselves in that light instead of feeling bad about messing up and then having that turmoil inside where you may feel unloved. I would never want them to feel unloved, but I definitely am learning what works as far as discipline goes, Kelsey. My oldest, as y'all know, she is so easy. And my youngest, I'm like, what do I do? My little Texas tornado. It's definitely been humbling, but also at the same time so rewarding.
That's
Mhm.
so good.
I love it, Sarah. That's just normally how it goes. The oldest is just a little bit more easygoing, and the youngest, you're like, what happened?
There is something to birth order, and see, I'm a second child, so y'all, like, I can't even, like, say anything.
I
I
am the
love
second child too.
We get it now.
Mhm.
I was a third child. I'm like, I don't know what I am, if I'm
Okay,
trouble,
so
if I'm
normally
wise.
the third child is, like, the most easygoing.
Ah, I
That's
could
kinda what
be,
I've observed with my
actually,
friends of 3 with 3 kids.
that would be me. And your husband, Kels?
And my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a third, right? Yes, he
Uh-huh,
is.
he is.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's so easygoing.
Wow. I
Let
did
us
He's
know
not
starting to
in the
say
know.
names.
comments, you guys. If y'all have a sibling, please let us know in the comments if the first one was the easygoing, the second was the tornado, and let us know about that third one.
Yes, let us know. We're curious.
Yeah.
I liked how, Kels, you were talking about the discipline versus punishment. That was good for me to kind of be reminded with. And also, I didn't realize, I know you've told us that it's like a class. That is so cool.
It's not like a college credit class, but she does do a program where you can become certified to be a coach. What's
You're
the
like
word?
a parent now. I'm
A
kidding.
Really?
mentor,
Yes,
I
it's
guess.
like a
Yeah.
parenting coach pretty much,
How cool.
which I have very strongly considered it. I want to make sure that we are consistent for a lifetime. We've been doing it consistent
Mhm.
since January. It's been very hard not to go back to the punishments. We have like threatened punishments on them before, and we've been like, wait, we're not doing punishments anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway,
It's hard to get out of that.
it is. And then you're like, you think you're free of it. And then you're like, wait a minute, I did it again. It takes a while.
Mhm.
Right there. That's something that I've been struggling with. I'll tell the Lord, like, okay, God, I'm not going to do that anymore. And we
Yeah.
talked about keeping our word and such, and that it has power in it. And then I feel regret because I'm like, maybe I should have never promised that I wasn't going to do this certain thing, because I broke it. And I just have to remind myself, when I do fail or when I don't live up to whatever it is that I told God I would do, He is a God of so much grace. And I'm not saying that to let everyone just break all of your promises. Like, we need to try to keep our word, but that's something that I've been struggling with as a parent, and just having to ask God, like, Lord, forgive me, send your Holy Spirit into whatever situation and give me your strength. And I pray that in front of my son when, Sarah, you were talking about your values
Mhm.
and you were saying forgiving each other. That was so, so just fresh on my heart, because my son is so forgiving of my husband and I, and he will truly all be crying. I try to be as raw with my son as possible so he can see I'm human. I cry just like you. I make mistakes just like you. And I'll sit him down and I'll try to explain to him, hey, bud, mama didn't mean to yell. And I'm sorry that I yelled at you earlier. And I tell him, you don't deserve that. So I try to reiterate that was not something that you've done that made me yell. And
Mhm.
I'll tell him I'm sorry. And I'm thinking, like, there's no way he's going to forgive me. And instantly he'll go, it's okay, mama. And I'm like, how can you just instantly, it's okay, mama, And it's a good reminder for me whenever I'm like, I've told you this 20 times in 5 minutes. Don't touch that. That he's so quick to forgive me that I need to show him that. And just us talking right now, that's convicting me, because I'm like, okay, he's 5 and I'm 32. If he's that good at forgiving me at 5, then that's saying something for a 32-year-old. I need to step up my game with forgiving him in the same manner.
I
don't
heard
think it's
recently someone say how they've decided to teach their children that when you say, I'm sorry, to try to change your brain to say, I forgive you instead of it's okay, because there's some things where it's not okay that you're like,
Yeah.
but that's just ever like, I always
Yeah.
say that's okay. But I just
Yeah.
Mhm.
thought I would share that it's really a good parenting tool to try and teach our kids to say, I forgive you, because that's the most important part rather than say that's okay. So
Mhm.
I love that you just said that, because I told my husband the other day, I felt horrible about just the day that my son and I had. And I was telling my husband, and I told him that I was sorry, because not only did I treat our son that way, but that affects my husband. So I admitted it to him and I said, I'm sorry. And he did that exact thing. And I've never heard him say that before. But he said, it's not okay, but I forgive you. And I was like, I've never heard that. No one has ever said it's not okay, but I forgive you. And so that's amazing you brought that up, Kels.
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to get out of the habit of doing, but I try. And if I'm doing it to the boys instead of saying that's okay, because my boys will always say, it's okay, mama, just like your son. But I'm like, all right, I need to be like, I forgive you. So I've been really trying. It is a really good
Wow.
practice.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Wow.
What else have you been learning in parenting, Mel?
Something else that with parenting, my husband has been helping me with is I'm with my son at home 24/7. I homeschool as you do, Kels, as well. And then Sarah, you're going to be doing soon. And it's a different lifestyle change when you kind of get that break from the kids and then you're with them 24/7. And I'm not saying that to scare anyone out there who might be. But it's just a reality. And I think of like people in the pioneer days. I'm like, how were they home alone when, the husbands were out like hunting in the
Getting the
prairie for,
gold or whatever.
yeah, weeks on end, getting the gold or off fighting a
Getting the
war.
gold.
But pretty much I'm like, how did they do it? But that's a whole nother story of how they did it. But it's just hard. And so something the Lord like gave me a revelation was like, why don't you ask your husband to relieve you a little bit? And I was just like, wow, I didn't think of that. So my husband, you really do know all ways higher than I. Anyways, but I asked my husband and I was like, can you take our son with you when you go to Bible study? Because he'd go to Bible study alone and I'd be at home still at night with our son. And then church on Sundays, my husband would go to church alone and set up the media booth and the sound booth and get everything set, make coffee. And I'm like, why am I home when you're off at church alone? Like, why don't you take some of this slack? And he completely agreed with it. And so that's been nice that my husband has kind of taken some of that load off of me. That way I can have a little bit of time that's not having to feel rushed, or I don't want to make it seem like my son is always dragging or anything, because he's really a great little boy. But it's needed. That's all I can say. It's needed to get some alone time sometimes from a son, from anyone. It's not just my son. It's just needed.
Would I rather sleep in for 2 extra hours or have 2 extra hours of alone time in the day?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe alone time.
Let me think about it. Do y'all know y'all's answers? What would y'all do?
Alone time.
Alone time. I think I would have alone time too. Okay. It's
time.
important. It's important as a mom.
Yes.
Mental health, ladies.
Mental health.
And take care of yourselves. Okay. Yes.
That was a funny clip, wasn't it, guys?
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this segment of Life Right Now Parenting. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.